It's the season for sharing stories of spirits and miracles. On this episode, you'll meet an author who writes about such things. Welcome to the Peep Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Maroc, and I'm grateful you're here. The two big ideas behind the Peep Podcast are to show that the paranormal is more normal than most people think, and to connect the science to the sci, including ESP, hauntings, and miracles. In this episode, you'll meet Kevin Hall, the author of Signs, The Veil is Thinner Than We Imagine. But first, just a quick reminder that my novels, Daughter of the Mystic Moon, The Tritium Hypothesis, and The Dark Season, are available as part of the Smashwords 2025 end-of-year sale. This is a chance to get my books along with books from many other great authors at a promotional discount. It runs through January 1st. You can find the promo link in the show notes or simply visit smashwords.com/sale. I also want to say happy holidays to you. My next episode will publish on New Year's Eve, so whatever you celebrate between now and then, I hope it's filled with peace, love, and joy. Now back to this episode's interview. Kevin Hall is a husband, dad, and grandfather who lives in Rush, a suburb of Rochester, New York. His education is in computer science, and he spent a successful 40-plus year career in the private sector with 2 Fortune 500 companies. Kevin started writing after he retired, and he has published 3 books. 2 are memoirs, and the third is the subject of this interview, a collection of true stories, each linked to a theme of how the veil is thinner than we imagine. It will challenge you to explore your own sign experiences while providing compelling research to assist you with your personal journey of understanding. Let's dive in with Kevin. Hi, Kevin. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, Nicole. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderfully. I'm so excited to talk to you. Happy to have you on the podcast. And just to let people know, we met at Author Nation, kind of hit it off really well. And then I found out that you had written a book called Signs and immediately knew that I had to have you on the show. So thank you very much for coming on.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. And I enjoyed our conversation out there at Author Nation, and I'm looking forward to today's discussion.
Yeah, I am too. So we'll get started with the question that I basically ask everybody who comes on the show.
Mhm.
What sparked your interest in the supernatural?
Well, I kind of think of it a little bit, Nicole, as we are receiving the communications from beyond the veil. And
Mhm.
as such, the title of the book was Signs, the Veil is Thinner Than We Imagine. And the reason I wrote the book is I've had some very interesting things happen to me in my life. And when I got married, my wife and I started to experience some interesting things. But it wasn't until we had uh, my best buddy from high school and his wife, who are very good friends with ours, came up for a visit, and one of these events happened right in front of them. And what it was we were playing dominoes at the kitchen table after having ate dinner, and my wife, when she gets thinking, she'll fiddle with her earring a little bit, and it fell off from the backing. So she got up, started looking around, couldn't find it. Well, we decided halt the game, help her look for it. So we started looking around. We couldn't find it. Well, wait a minute. We're sitting at the kitchen table. It fell off. It's got to be here somewheres.
Mhm.
Could not find it. Went to bed that night. She shook out her clothes, brushed her hair. No earring to be found. Next morning, we come down for breakfast. We ate at the island, and after we ate, We wiped off the island, took care of all the dishes, and went out for the day. Came back that evening around 5 o'clock. I opened the back door, come in, everybody single file right behind me. Go in the kitchen, my wife right behind me. She says, "Oh, hon, you found my earring." I looked at her, I said, "Honey, I just got here." So I said, "And by the way, what earring?" She says, "That one right there." And she pointed to the island. And sitting on the island that we wiped off, I mean, entirely, there was the earring sitting there. Even Louise, my good friend's wife, said, "Wait a minute. We cleaned that whole island off this morning. There was nothing on it when we left." Now, to further add to this, their son is a Lutheran minister.
Hmm.
They are a religious family, and she says, we've had similar events. She reaches into her purse and pulls out a little red cardinal charm and sets it in the place where the earring was as a little token, almost an omen to the spirit that we recognize you. And she told us that she carries these with her because these events do occur. And right then and there, I decided, okay, I'm going to start to write the stories that have happened to me. I've had some friends that shared with me some of their events. I put them in the book. And I said, well, these stories are good. And they kind of proved the point to me,
Hmm.
but I need more. So I went looking for folks. And I found a couple of folks who were in the Twin Towers on 9/11, and I got their stories. Those gentlemen are Ron DeFrancesco and Brian Clark, and you can look them up on the internet and the stories that they tell. I mean, when I was listening to their stories, especially Ron DeFrancesco's, I had the hair standing up in the back of my neck. Here
Wow.
he was starting out in around the 70 some floor. And that's about where the plane crashed through. So they were heading down, and actually, him and Brian were together at the time, heading down. And they get down to, I want to say it's somewhere around the 78th, 79th floor, somewhere's in there. And they hear somebody screaming from inside the room while they're in the stairwell. And it just so happened when the plane hit, the whole building shook. And what happened was it ripped some of the sheetrock away from the door frames. So they were started pulling and ripping the sheetrock to get into this guy.
Hmm.
Well, Brian got through. Ron says it was so smoke filled he had to get out. So he got out and decided to head back upstairs where it was fresher air. Meanwhile, Brian goes in and rescues the guy that's in there. And
Hmm.
Brian describes it. No, there was a fresh air bubble all around me. I was fine. But Ron was filled with smoke. So he goes back upstairs. He gets up to like the 91st floor, sees people laying down and looking around. He says, "What's going on?" He starts to get overcome with smoke too, and he starts to lay down. Well, what it is, and it's smoke inhalation, and it's just cutting off the oxygen and
Hmm.
putting the people to sleep and essentially suffocating them.
Yeah.
So he starts to go down and lay down on the floor, and all of a sudden he hears a voice telling him, "Get up and get out." He looks around, he says, and he doesn't know where that voice came from. He got up. He headed back downstairs, gets down to about the 69th, 70th floor, and looks ahead, and there's all kinds of smoke. He sees fire, there's debris all over the place. There was that voice again. "Go through it, get out." He says, and he told me, he says, "I know I wasn't hallucinating."
Hmm.
He says, "I went through 3 floors of absolute hell. Got down to the first floor. They wouldn't let him out the front door.
Why not?
Debris, and I hate to say this,
Oh,
jumpers.
yeah.
Yep. And so he went through the underground concourse. Well, as he's going through the underground concourse, he sees another uh, guy that he recognized, and the guy's just limping along, having a tough time. So Brian goes over, or excuse me, Ron goes over, grabs him by the arm, and starts to escort him out. That's when the building shook, and he turns around and sees a fireball coming at him. And the next thing you know, and he turned back to the guy and he says, "Run." And the next thing you know, he's waking up 3 days later in the hospital,
Mm.
a gouge to his head. The contacts had fused to his eyes, but the doctors managed to get him off, and he was burned over 60% of his body. But I asked him, I said, "Ron, what was that voice? Where do you think it came from?" And he says, "One of two things. It was either an angel or God."
Mhm.
And when he said that, I mean, that's when I just said, "Oh, I mean, I could not even imagine that." So with that and the other stories, I decided then I'm writing this book and putting all of this into it. And so that was really the catalyst from what personally happened. And I got Ron and Brian's stories. There's another gentleman, Doug White. Uh, Doug adventure was that he chartered a plane after his brother's funeral, and this was in Florida. They live in Louisiana.
Mhm.
He chartered a plane to take him and his family back home, only the pilot dies 10 minutes into the flight.
Oh no.
He has to take over and land this. And all of the trials and tribulations he went through. And I asked him, I said, did you have any fear? Did you have any kind of, angst over this? He says, when you walk in the light, you have no fear. And he said, all he had to do was concentrate.
Mm.
And they said when he landed the plane, there wasn't even a scuff on the tire. And Amazon made a movie out of it called On a Wing and a Prayer, and it was shown on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And Dennis Quaid played him in the movie. Now, Dennis has had his own interesting events in his life. I reached out. I tried to get Dennis in the worst way. I went to his alma maters, his fan club. His family has his mom and his brother have a real estate business. I reached out to that. His agents in California. I reached out to. I tried to get him in the worst way, and I just could not. And finally, I had to publish the book. But another gentleman, Ed Curry. If you've ever heard of the Carolina Reaper pepper,
Hmm.
Ed is the developer of that.
Oh, wow.
Ed was a drug addict at a very young age, and I shouldn't just say drugs. It was drugs and alcohol. At his peak, he was consuming, his words, 1 gallon of alcohol a
Whoa.
day. But he was functioning. He went to college, took up chemistry and things like that. And one of the things he did in college was start to grow peppers. Well, afterwards he just wound up such an addict. He lost, his wife, his a lot of his friends, his job, all this kind of stuff, and he found himself in Michigan in the dead of winter in a condo. He was weighing almost 400 pounds.
Whoa.
Yeah. And he just said, I gathered up all my drugs and alcohol to end the pain. And that's not all he did. This was January in Michigan. It's a blizzard outside. This is a 400-pound man. He strips naked and opens up all the doors and windows.
Mm.
So when I asked him about that, well, the drugs and alcohol didn't do it. Cold. So he's sitting there. He's got all this stuff in front of him and a huge, bright light. He says this is the brightest light he's ever seen. Shows up at his doorway. And he's looking at the light. And all of a sudden, he sees a person standing there, brighter than the light. And it told him to go to Brighton Hospital. That's all it said. Go to Brighton Hospital. He gets up to go to the door. It vanished. No footprints, nothing in the snow. He doesn't know what. He told me, he says, I was kind of shaken. I was really traumatized. This is what he says. I gathered up my drugs, my alcohol, and my guns, put them in the car, and I was heading to Brighton Hospital.
Oh my gosh.
So he winds up going there. On the way, he gets a buddy of his to help calm him down and drive him. He says, I don't know where Brighton Hospital is, but I know where Brighton, Michigan is. And they figured Brighton, Michigan, Brighton Hospital. Well, when they get there, it's kind of a nondescript concrete building, but there's a door that says entrance. He goes up and he knocks on the door. And when the person opened it, he tells me this is the words he says: An angel sent me here. And the guy looked at him and says, I think you better come in. It wound up being a rehab hospital.
Oh.
He was there for almost 3 years, dropped weight down to around 200 pounds. And then afterwards, he went down to the Carolinas to start a business, which was growing these peppers. And first pepper that was real hot was the Carolina Reaper. Since then, he's developed a second one called Pepper X. Now, just to give you an example, a jalapeno goes 2,000 to 8,000 Scoville heat units. That's how they measure these things.
Mhm.
Um, However, his Carolina Reaper pepper was about 1.6 million Scoville heat units. Pepper
Yikes.
X is 2.4 million Scoville heat units.
But at that
Now,
point, I think you lose your taste buds.
yeah, and
Wow.
he can consume this. He says he doesn't get high or anything, doesn't even think about any of that stuff. He says he has enough with his caffeine and the peppers. But here's the kicker to all this. Doctors are now looking at that pepper because the compounds in it are possible for helping with their cancer research.
Oh, wow.
So you talk about how this stuff manifests. It just, I mean, it blows my mind. And when I'm hearing these stories, my wife will even tell you, there was a couple of times after the interviews, I just had to sit back and just take some reflection and a
Mhm.
little bit of introspection and just what really is all of this.
Mhm.
And I mean, I've always believed in the hereafter and believed in the Almighty. I don't necessarily believe in modern day church, but that's a whole nother story.
Mhm.
But there's no way anyone can convince me after hearing this that there is not that hereafter and we can't receive messages from there.
I agree. And
So,
that is amazing for somebody who is ready to end it all to come up with a pepper that could be used to potentially help with cancer.
yes,
That's
yes, yes.
beautiful.
And you know something else? The Doug White on a Wing and a Prayer,
Mhm.
the gentleman who helped him out. Now, remember, I told you he was in Florida.
Yeah.
And when he issued that Mayday, he told the people, the tower that responded, find me the longest, widest runway you possibly can.
Hmm.
And from what I was able to research, but it's not 100% confirmed, but from what I was able to find is it could also have been the runway, which is the backup runway to land the shuttle planes. So this thing had to be big and long. Okay.
Yes.
But what happened because of all this, the gentleman who wound up talking him down was in Danbury, Connecticut. And
Wow.
they did something in the tower that you're not supposed to do. One of the gentlemen that was there learning and training knew this guy in Danbury, Connecticut, got him on his cell phone, and you're not supposed to do that.
Oh.
But because they thought out of the box, they have now taken a lot of the concepts and put them now into the safety training for a lot of these control tower people.
Oh, wow.
So you talk about how all this stuff kind of just comes around. Why? You know, to me, there's a plan. There is a definite plan. So
Absolutely.
that's how I got involved in it. And those are some of the stories that are in there.
Uh, those are amazing stories. Okay, so I want to go back to the little red cardinal
Yes, yes.
because I've never heard that before, and I don't know, if she gave you any more explanation than that, but she said it was for the spirit that brought back the
Right.
earring.
Paying homage to them, etc. Now, I did do research, and I also think of the signs book as a little bit of a primer
Hmm.
because I get into a lot of things in there. One of the things is how can we receive these signs through animals? And one of them is the cardinal.
Yes.
And we probably heard that many times where after a loved one passes on, sometimes people see a cardinal show up and just hang around.
Hmm.
There's Suzanne Summers, her and her husband Alan, and I can't think of Alan's last name off the top of my head. But she passed on, and Alan, he says he's not really a huge believer, or he wasn't until he was started to see little things happening here and there. He's getting ready to leave the house one day, opens the door, and a bird flies in, flies all around inside, goes into the living room, and lands on a picture of Susan Summers.
Aw.
And he said that was the convincer to him right there. But there's been so many more. I mean, I don't know if you're old enough to remember Sam Kennison, the comedian.
Yes. I
Yeah, I
am.
didn't think you were that old. Um, but Sam had some interesting things even to the day he died. And Sam was a Baptist, raised Baptist, and very definite in that field until he went towards the other side, his comedy, his drinking, and things like that. But he was heading to a gig one night, and it was him and his wife in the car, and they had only been married a little while. Right behind him was the van with the rest of the entourage, and they're getting ready to head to a gig. Well, he's driving down the road and totally fine. He was totally in the right. Some car up ahead pulls out into his lane, coming at him to go around the vehicle that was in the lane, smashes head on into it.
Mhm.
His wife winds up with some bruising and cuts and stuff like that. Well, Sam was in a much worse shape because the car hit more onto his side, tried
Yeah.
to swerve at the last minute, but got his side. Well, he's being examined, and this is where it's a little fuzzy. And I tried to find more information. Was he examined in a hospital or was he examined on the side of the road? But
Hmm.
whatever the case, he looked up like he's looking towards the corner of the room, says, "No, no, no, I don't want to go. No." Looks back, and his brother's with him. His brother's the one relating the story. And then all of a sudden he looks back. Well, okay, all right, okay. He was gone. They don't know what he was seeing, who
Hmm.
he was talking to, or anything like that. So, was it a spirit? Was it, a lot of people see their relatives and stuff just before they die.
Right.
There's a doctor, Christopher Kerr, and I interviewed him. He's out of Buffalo, New York, and he was a cardiologist by schooling, and that's how he started his profession. And he says, I was looking for some part-time work, and I went over to this hospice, and they needed a cardiologist over there. So he started doing some part-time work. Well, lo and behold, he winds up becoming the CEO. of hospice and palliative care in Buffalo, New York.
Wow.
Extremely large place. He's chronicled over 1,500 patients' end of life experience. And he's videotaped this. He's written white papers on it. He's written a book. I want to say it's called Dreams. And if you just hold for a second, do I have it here handy? I know it's in my office here, but it just may not be handy. But anyways, it's is very, very interesting book. And again, his name's Christopher Kerr, Dr. Christopher Kerr, Kerr. And over 80% of his patients have these end of life experiences. And one woman that he chronicled and talked with, he says she was there, all the family gathered because it was kind of her last days. And when they entered the room, she's doing this. And she's just like rocking a baby back and forth.
Hmm.
Well, it wasn't till her sister finally made it there. Come to find out, she had a miscarriage very early on, and no one else in the family knew but her sister. And so, was she rocking her baby, finally together with it?
Right.
But it wasn't too long after that she had passed on. And he says, I got people here of all ages. And when I asked the younger ones, what are they seeing? Some of them describe a beautiful castle. Others describe seeing their dog that had passed on. And all these things. There's, for me, there's no doubt in my mind that there is an afterlife.
Hmm.
It is there. Now, if you choose to embrace it or not, you know, that's kind of your choice. I know what mine is.
Right. I'm doing this podcast, so I'm obviously embracing it. Um, so you just reminded me of an interview I did. Oh my gosh, that might have been 2 years ago. His name is John Mathis, and it was episode 72. He's done a lot of things in his life, and he had a near-death experience that was, oh, vivid. And you have to listen to the episode.
Okay, I
Sorry.
just wrote it down to do that.
But he also talked about working, I can't remember if it was actually hospice, but it was in a hospital, and it might have been a cancer ward. I'd have it it's sorry, it was episode 72 and I'm on episode 113 now. Some of them start to run together a little bit, but his stood out because he has had shared death experiences, whereas the person is passing, he has seen the vision that they're seeing as
Hmm.
they're passing. And he just described one experience specifically as being so beautiful that he wanted to just celebrate. And yet the family is in the room mourning, so
Yes.
he had to leave the room because he couldn't his emotions were conflicting with their
Right.
emotions.
Right.
But yeah, listen, if you have time, listen to episode
Oh,
72
I'll
because
definitely go
I
back
think
and
you'll
do
enjoy
that.
that. And
And
if you ever want to talk to him, I can put you in touch with him.
okay, we should celebrate that, and it's mourning for us because
Mhm.
they're leaving the physical world, but they're going to this beautiful place,
Yes.
and that we should celebrate, and they'll be there when we get there. And that
Yes.
goes to a saying I have in the very beginning of the book. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And when you really think about that, the paradigm shifts. And where do we go from here? We're still the spirit. We still have this energy. You can't destroy the energy. So it's going to go somewheres.
Hmm.
And I mean, and like I said, Nicole, I tried to make this a bit of a primer also because I constantly see the numbers 1, 2, 3, and one, two, three, four,
Hmm.
constantly. And 1 week before I release this book, I go to the car dealer to just have an oil change, tire rotate, that kind of thing, general maintenance.
Yeah.
I get the receipt. There it was, $12.34 tax. I see this all the time. So I looked it up and come to find out it's something I had no knowledge, but they called it angel numbers.
Yes.
And I didn't know anything about that. So I started doing a little bit more research into it, and they all have meanings behind them. And mine was just telling me, keep going, you're on the right path, you're doing fine. So I no issues at all.
Yeah.
I'm coming back from guitar lessons one night, and I'm driving down the road as I normally do. This car abruptly, right in front of me, I had to hit the brakes hard, and I'm saying a few words in my head. And I looked down at the license plate. Now, my name's Kevin, but good friends call me Kev.
Hmm.
And there it was, KEV followed by four numbers. It wasn't one, two, three, four, but I looked at it and I said, okay, I'm getting a message here. And so I went home, looked it up, and it was another positive message, but they didn't have to pull right in front of me and
No.
make me almost cause an accident. But that was the thing. And had it not said KEV, I probably wouldn't have thought anything of it.
Right.
But people say, well, how do you know you're getting signs? It's something personal to you.
Hmm.
And I'm sitting on my back deck one day and we're watching, my wife and I just relaxing after our chores, watching this butterfly. And it was a little monarch butterfly fly past. It keeps going all the way almost to the other end of the yard, makes a loop in the air, comes back and lands on my shoulder. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, what is this? And I'm looking at it, and it just sat there for a while and then finally got up and flew off. I wasn't thinking too much about it until about a week or two later, my wife calls me, and we've got a three-car garage. All the doors were open because it's summertime. We're doing work outside. A hummingbird had gotten into the garage. Well, if you've ever noticed hummingbirds when they take off, they kind of take off in one direction,
Hmm.
straight up.
Yes.
And so this one was flying up at the ceiling of the garage and it had perched itself on the wire that went over to the garage door opener. So I said, how the heck am I going to get him out of here? So I take a broom, bristle side up, and go up, hoping he'll step onto it. He does. I bring it down slowly. I take my finger and I go up. He steps onto the finger. Then
Wow.
he flies right back up again.
Okay.
Repeat the process. Bring him back down. Stepped onto my finger. I walk him now outside the garage and to the other side of the driveway, probably 20, 30 feet away, saying, all right, now you're not going to fly back into that. And we just sat there, eye to eye, looking at each other. And it was calm, peaceful. It felt like longer than it was. Now, it probably was a few seconds, maybe 5, 10 max, but
Mhm.
it felt like a lot longer than that, that we were just sitting there, just total two different living beings looking at each other. And then it flew off. And I'm thinking, first thought came to mind, okay, am I Dr. Doolittle now, or what is this? But I began to look these things up. And now I'll just segue back to the cardinal for a second. The cardinals have been known throughout history. And the American Indian even embraced the cardinal as much as they embraced the feathers from an eagle.
Mhm.
They embraced the feathers from the cardinal as being passed on warriors in their spirit. And they wore those in their headband, thinking it would give them more stamina, more power, more vigor when they went into battle.
Mhm.
But the other part of the cardinal is the red of its wings supposedly is the signal that it's been touched by the divine, and it's the color of the blood. So if you've read anything on that, you'll know that, you know, even the spear, and I forget the spear's name, that speared Jesus on the cross,
Mhm.
people thought that had power because the blood had touched it.
Right.
So that's where a
Yeah.
lot of this really is coming from. But the more I researched, the more I found that animals carry messages. Even the hummingbird, right down to the color of its wings, have certain meanings in certain cultures.
Mhm.
So I found this all pretty interesting. And so that started me, all right, let me research. I went back to the Druids, the Egyptians, the Romans. I went to cultures of India, China, Japan, the Norse. In fact, the Norse call it thin places,
Mhm.
where, I call it the thinning of the veil. They call it thin places. That's their term for it.
Yeah.
So this has permeated history, this has permeated cultures, and it's just something that, okay, it's real, it's there. And I am convinced. Now, I'll tell you, I come from a background of logic. I was a computer science guy in college. I started computer programming. Everything was logic based and all the. But as you get older, you start to really say, what is the message? What is all of this? And I mean, I hate to say sometimes you wrestle with the question, why are we here? What's our purpose? But you do, those things come up.
Mhm.
And when I started putting all this together, for me, I came to the point of saying, there is an afterlife. I'm here to do the best I can with what I have
Yep.
and to share as much as I can out there. If I, as Doug White told me after the call, and we were talking about the book, he says, if that book can just convince one person, it's done its job. And I can't say anything more than that about it, Nicole.
I am excited about this book. And you're obviously a good storyteller, because I did not have to ask you many questions for clarification. So I appreciate that. Um,
No, no problem. That goes back to my grade school days where the teachers would tell me, "Will you at least shut up?"
I was the one who never talked because I just like to listen. So this is why I do a podcast and interview people. Okay, so tell people how they can find your book
Oh,
or all
sure.
of your books.
All right. And my first two books were memoir history. So if you like the nostalgia of the 60s and 70s, small town America, that was the first two books. And I actually describe them as memoir history because I go into a history of the areas that I was living in at the time. Um, Now, all of my books obviously can be found on Amazon,
Mhm.
but they can also be found on many other websites. The Signs book, you can go to Barnes and Noble. I found it on Walmart.com. There's some used book sites that it's on. There's so many others that are out there. Ingram Spark, Drafted Digital, things like
Mhm.
that. These books are out there that you can find it. If you're in anywhere's near Rosemont, Minnesota, or Ilion, New York, you can find my books in the libraries there.
Nice.
So, and I am very happy that the Rosemont book has been checked out repeatedly. People love it. Now, yeah, I wish they'd buy it, but no, I'm happy that they're reading it. The Ilion book, the library, I had received message back. It launched in April of 22. I received message in January of 23. It became the number one checked out book from the whole library system for 2022. And it didn't come out until April. They didn't get it until May.
Wow,
So I,
that's
I was
awesome.
very, very happy and humbled by that. And the science book that has started to really ramp up. I think more and more people, as they get older, they tend to think of these things.
Mhm.
And there's a few folks that I know that are a little bit on the celebrity side. They have these books, and they've commented back to me on them. So I know they're getting out there and they're getting read. Now, have they sold tens of thousands? No, no. I'm also one of these that, yeah, maybe I could go out and afford the advertising, but I don't want to. You know, I'd rather it spread word of mouth and organically, and it
Yeah.
has definitely done that. And I
Mhm.
still get sales. And in fact, every month since my first book, without fail, I have had sales of all or some of those books every month, and I'm now on my 45th month.
Nice. That's
So
awesome.
I'm more than happy. And I didn't do it to make the money. And I'll be honest with you, I'm retired. I did okay. I was one of these. I'm going to save. I got retirement,
Hmm.
you know, and I saw my parents struggle. And that was the catalyst for me saying, no, I don't want to be in that boat. And my wife was of the same mindset. And it's not that we went without, but we're doing okay. We're
Yeah,
not eating steak and caviar every night, but we're not eating dog food either.
that's good.
So,
Okay, so I will put a link in my show notes to your website and
okay.
directly to the science book on Amazon, just because that's what most people default to, as much as I would love them to try some of the other options out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
And, and on my website, Nicole, kevin-hall.com,
Hmm.
you can actually download the Ron DeFrancesco story. It's the chapter right out of the book. So I have that out there. You know, if people want to get a sample, they
Yep,
can before they buy. And there it is.
that's awesome. Yeah, everybody likes a free sample, so try it
Yeah.
before you buy it. And I I actually have no doubt that once they read it, they're going to want to buy this book.
Yeah, I hope so. And it is an ebook and paperback. It's the only one that's an ebook. The first two are loaded with color photos.
Mm,
And there's no way I was going to make an ebook out of that. But they are a paperback. And, you know, again, I try to keep the pricing reasonable on it. And there's a big sale going on right now for the holidays. So
yes, there is.
hopefully, you know, they think enough about it to go out and at least check it out.
Yes. And you were telling me about a book that you're working on to come out in the future about 50 years of marriage.
Yes. Yep. The title of that, and it's a working title right now.
Hmm.
It's called Grace and Love, Marriage Outtakes, Family Bloopers, and 50 Years of Heartwarming Memories. And let me tell you the stories I get into on it, and it's side by side. So as you open the book, the grace story will be on one side of the page, the love will be on the other side of the page. So it's kind of like, oh, this is grace and find it wonderful, and oh, okay, here's the love over here, you know, kind of getting into the bloopers, the humor, and that kind of thing. And I'm hoping to have that out. My goal would be for Valentine's Day because I just think it really would be a nice little thing to get people to know it's not all a bed of roses,
Mm-mm. Right.
but there's ups and downs. And I met my wife. I was a senior in high school. She was a junior, and we were married the next year. And our first child wasn't born till 4 years later. And we have just enjoyed ourselves ever since. And again, there was a lot of trials and tribulations,
Right.
but you push through and you know that you got together for a reason, for a purpose. And now, 50 years later, we're not going to have a big blowout party. Instead, what we're telling all of our friends, come up, spend some time, pay a visit.
Hmm.
We got bedrooms, no problem. I have a wine cellar in the basement. Come on up.
I love that idea to celebrate your anniversary with a book about it's just like you said, not just trials and tribulation, but the humor that you find in it and
Yes.
the love and the grace that's required to get through 50 years. And I always love hearing that somebody has been married that long because it feels like it's rarer and rarer these days.
It is. And I mean, there's no doubt about it. My wife and I look at each other and said, looking back on all of it, would we do it again? Without question.
Yeah.
Would we change a couple of things? Probably. We did it the hard way. We went back to college after we were married. Was in my last semester when my son was born. And, those are some hard times. And after I
Mhm.
got done, my wife then went back to college. Those were not easy times.
Right.
So we would probably do that first, but we would still, been together, over that whole time frame and then got married afterwards. But it's worked out. And there were people back then, I will tell you that, they've told us later on, we didn't know if this was going to last.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And I mean it's a natural reaction for
yeah.
adults when they see basically teenagers, you were still in high school,
Hmm.
um, decide to spend the rest of their lives together. But I actually know several people who, 20, 30, 40 years later, they're still together. So it's
I
beautiful.
just had my 50th high school reunion in September,
Hmm.
and I couldn't tell you how many of classmates that were there with their spouses that they met in high school, and they
Ah,
were still together. So I don't know if there's something to that or not, but when you know it, you know it. And we knew it. I mean, probably even a little less than 3 months of dating, we were talking marriage.
wow.
I mean, we just knew it. It was like as soon as we see each other, when are we going to stop all this and just get together? So, that's the way it was.
That is fantastic. Okay. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
I really, I think I've mentioned everything about the book Signs,
Hmm.
and again, the whole concept of we're not human beings having a spiritual journey. We are spiritual beings having a human journey. To
Hmm.
me, when I saw that, it just kind of, I mean, it was a paradigm shift because it puts everything else for me, it put it into perspective.
Yes.
And whatever life throws at me, hey, this is the journey I'm on. And I will handle it as best as I can. And my wife will tell you, I'm not always good at handling things. I had a frustrating day today out shopping amongst what I'll call skulls full of mush. I mean, these people, when it comes to customer service, holy mackerel. And I started out as a bag boy in a grocery store. And the customer service back then was, I mean, just way beyond anything today.
Yeah.
So it just was a little bit of an upsetting day, but come home, relax, be with family, calms me down.
Yeah. That's good. Well, I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. And thanks again for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Nicole. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks again to Kevin for sharing some amazing stories, and thank you for listening. Remember, if you want to share your own personal paranormal experiences of any type, use the contact form at peeppodcast.com to get in touch. You can be as anonymous as you like, or you can let your paranormal freak flag fly and share your name. Either way, I'm happy to hear from you. Sharing our stories helps people realize that the paranormal is much more normal than they think. That's Podcast.com. PEEP podcast.com. Remember, that stands for people experiencing everyday paranormal. While you're there, subscribe to my newsletter and keep up with the podcast and all my creative and energetic endeavors. I usually only email it once a month unless I have a special event you should know about. You'll receive briefs on recent episodes, information on any upcoming appearances, plus some occasional fun extras, like this month's random drawing for a signed copy of Daughter of the Mystic Moon. If you enjoy the podcast, please give it some rating love on your favorite podcast app, share it with friends, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Ratings, reviews, and shares help platforms like Apple Podcast and Spotify know it's worthy of servicing to new listeners. And as we build our audience, we have more chances to hear their paranormal stories. A huge thank you to everyone who has given the show some love. You're helping it grow. No matter how you support the show, listening, telling others about it, or any other way, I absolutely appreciate your being here. Thanks again for listening. Stay safe, be well, and happy holidays.